An exciting mix should give your song life and energy to the top end of your track, but what I see a lot of people doing instead is making it harsh. So here are 3 mixing tips for exciting mixes without the harsh that work in just about every single genre. And trust me, I have used these techniques in just about every single genre. Before I go into the actual tips, we need to define what an exciting mix is. And I actually asked some of my producer friends what they define an exciting mix as. And they all said roughly the same thing, but they were pretty vague. Some of them said high-end energy, some of them said brightness. They all kind of were around the same area, but it was pretty vague, and I need to be very specific if I'm going to teach you how to do this. So having these words with actual actions behind them is very key. And so for this video, I am explaining excitement, or an exciting mix, as high-end energy. In fact, the word excitement or exciting is so commonly used that we actually have tools called exciters that add high-end frequencies to a mix or to a track. So that's how we are defining excite inside of a mix. So anytime someone says they want it more exciting, that's how I define it. And that's how a lot of other people in the industry choose to define exciting. So that's actually tip number 1, is just using an exciter. So let me show you how to use an exciter, and then I'll break down exactly what it's doing and why it's actually a bit better than EQ in most cases when you're looking for that high-end sizzle. So take a listen to the intro synths that I have here. So I want to add just a bit of sizzle and excitement to the top end of these synths. So instead of reaching for an EQ, I actually want to grab an exciter here and listen to the difference. Quite the massive difference. What an exciter does is it actually adds higher frequencies that aren't there originally in the track. If you were to grab an EQ, it just turns up those frequencies that are already there. But an exciter either adds harmonic distortion to create those high-end frequencies, or they create synthesized harmonics. Either way, it's creating higher frequencies that weren't originally there. This is the FGA, but you can use just about anything as long as it's an exciter. Waves has the Aphex Vintage exciter, and there's tons of other exciters. Just find one you like and use it. So that's tip number 1. Now, tip number 2 is really, really sneaky. Take a listen to these guitar tracks here. Here how the second one sounds a lot more bright and a lot more exciting. The second one sounds way better. So what kind of mixing trick did I use to get it to sound that way? Well, it might surprise you, but I'm using the exact same preset on both guitars. I'm using the exact same guitar. I'm using the exact same plugins. I'm even using the exact same microphone. I only changed 2 things. I changed the pick I used, and I changed the position of the microphone while I was recording the guitar. Everything in the DAW is identical. Even the guitar is identical, and the player, myself, is identical. So if you want more exciting tracks, try starting with an exciting sound with some more top end that's already there. Using a thinner pick on acoustic guitar can really kind of elevate that up a little bit. Maybe if you play with a lighter grip, and then also changing the microphone position instead of around the sound hole, putting it up towards the 12th fret to kind of get some of those higher frequencies and get rid of some of those lower ones that are usually produced by the sound hole. This is just on acoustic guitar. This also applies to recording vocals as well, recording drums, recording anything at all. This also applies to choosing good sounds at the source. Instead of always reaching for the next mixing trick, try to actually get it more exciting at the source. And now the third trick is another sneaky little trick as well. I like to call this the contrast method. See if you can see what I'm talking about here. You wanna So did you catch that there on the synths? I was actually rolling off some of the high end and then sweeping it back in before we went back into that chorus. Because our brains work on contrast, there is no light without dark, there's no up without down, there's no left without right. Sometimes being able to take away that high end and then bringing it back in makes it sound like there's more there than originally was before. I also do this on the low end too, by the way. Just a little bonus trick for you. You can actually roll off the low end or even turn the volume down right before a drop and turn it back up to where it was before. It makes it sound louder because of the contrast that was just there before. Let's listen to the synths by themselves. Now if I turn that off, listen to the difference now. wanna break my identity. It's way more boring, and it doesn't kind of add that excitement back in the high end that we're looking for. So playing around with that really helps. That's why defining words is very important. When I say an exciting mix, I mean some energy in the top end. In fact, there's a lot of words that we use to define different things in the frequency spectrum, and that's why I made a free guide that you can download in the link in the description, or you can just scan this QR code here. In that guide, I actually put words to EQ moves. So when somebody says they want to get rid of the boxy frequencies, you know exactly what they are. If you want to fix the mud, or if you want to bring up some presence, all of these words have different places on an EQ spectrum. And in that guide, I show you what they are. In fact, I call them my 7 golden frequencies. So you can download that with the link down in the description, or you can just scan this QR code here. Otherwise, you're probably going to want to watch this video here, because in that video, I explain how you can actually get your song to sound like everything else is on Spotify. So you're not giving your listeners audio whiplash when they're going back and forth. Clipping and limiting are both very powerful tools to make sure it's loud enough before you ever release your song. And in that video, I break down those two tools and how you can use them to make your songs louder, but yet not completely crushing the dynamics. So click that video, and I'll see you over there. Now, as always, go create.